Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday night segment of The Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live via the International Public Radio on United Public Radio Network 105.3 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. This evening and every evening's segments are fully sponsored by the amazing folks over at Folgers Coffee. So big thank you, Folgers. We love you. And tonight we do welcome back one of our favorite guests, Mr. Preston Dennett, to the show. He's going to be sharing a whole bunch of more fascinating stories on abductions and contacts and things of that nature, ET, of course, while discussing his new book. He's always a lot of fun, always super informative. We just love him to bits. But in order to participate in tonight's show, you're all going to have to head over to International Public Radio, Gods, UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, YouTube pages. Please subscribe. Of course, the chat room, if you want direct contact, tag Amelia, but it has to be UFO Paranormal Radio Network. And we will definitely be able to get you a little bit quicker. Otherwise, please do feel free to connect up on any of the network's Facebook pages, which I believe will be News on the Flip Side, International Community for Alien Research, UFO Paranormal, and of course, 34 seconds to go. I know. So with that said, here we go. And we are, I think I got everything covered. I think we're good. Okay.
Yeah. Yay.
34
How
seconds
are
to go.
That was really high.
I'm a little winded. Yeah, that's good.
I know. Sorry. Sometimes my voice can get like right up there. This time of night, not usually. So that was a little bit weird.
Yeah, been a weird couple of days, I have to say. But yeah, but it's okay. Very hot over here. And
did you see my post? I'm like, are you having fun yet? It's in the 90s with humidity. We're not used to this kind of heat, but the humidity here in Southern Ontario is so nasty. As you can tell, I haven't been outdoors this summer. Usually I'm like so dark by now, but I haven't had the opportunity to go out. I haven't even felt like being out there because it's so bloody.
Nobody wants to be in this sticky old weather. That's just yuck. You know
what's awful? People say to me, "Oh, well, you have a pool." Yeah, but do you know how hot your pool gets at this time of year? It's like walking. I'm not that person that likes bath water when I go into a swimming pool. I don't like it cold either.
Right.
I like
it
about
just 84. Right.
Yeah. 84, 85. But when it hits 90 outside, the pool is, you can cook pasta in it, basically.
Pretty
it's
much
salt water,
the same.
Throw it in, and there's dinner. But it's just
pretty much the same.
It's a gross feeling for me. And I know a lot of people like hot water and swimming pools. That's not my thing. It's not my thing. And I love the water, but
I know.
Man, oh man, it's just been crazy. It's been nasty.
I'm just too busy.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Today was one of those days for sure. I'm getting on with the violin. Oh, whatever, Joe. Stuff your stinking violin.
Because I was talking about how awful the pool is.
Yeah, I know. Bring in the wine, though. We want wine with that violin music.
I used to listen to people talk that way, and I used to forever. And then I got the pool.
I know.
And then I got the pool, and the last couple years, I'm very in it.
What is that about, Miss Cookie Monster? Send me your cookies, okay? Because if somebody steal your cookies today, you look grumpy. I've had a day, and I'll leave it right there. So,
wow.
But what
he interviews us once, and he thinks he can say anything.
Just wow. But I've really been looking forward to tonight's show because we love having Preston Dennett on. He's so much fun. He's just such a sweetie. His stories are delightful, and it's not all typical. When you hear about alien abductions, or usually a lot of the frightening stuff is out there. Not everyone's had frightening experiences, and some have had really interesting experiences. And he really does bring to light some really lighthearted stuff. Not that he doesn't get the other stuff, but he does have lighthearted stuff, which is really nice. And, he will touch a little bit on on someone tonight who we're actually going to bring on next week. And I know her personally, and I can tell you it will be very mind-blowing and not what you think. It's just wow. So really looking forward to that. Oh, hey, Zach, man.
I'm so grateful that she's coming on. It's
going to be good. Look, I got to reset.
It's going to be good, and I'm just really, really excited about it. Hi,
right.
Hi, Zach. I said hi in the chat, but I don't know if you caught it. I'm excited about it. This is very different. I think everybody's going to really enjoy this, and I really believe she's going to help a lot of people understand so much more.
I think so too.
One segment.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that's what Preston does. He brings forward stories that are really sorry. Okay, good. All right. I can't. That was speaking of Dolly. That was just her. So I'm sure she'll be in chat tonight. But anyway, yeah, Preston does, put pen to paper and bring a lot of these experiences to light. I know for one that it has helped lighten up my thoughts on ETs and all the spooky stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little bit more comfortable with it all. But whenever Joe's ready, we're definitely going to bring him on. And there he is. Hey, there's a guy.
Hi,
how are you?
Look at that smile. You have a great smile, Preston. You really do.
Can't hear you. Your mic is.
Turn your mic on.
There we are.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, battling the heat too.
Oh, God, right?
What's it like there?
Well, it cooled down a little bit today, but it's been over 100 for the past week.
We're just trailing behind you.
Humid heat there.
Yeah, it's actually really humid. Usually it's not.
Oh, humidity is the
but
worst.
Man, oh man, my tiny little air conditioner is just not cutting it.
No, it doesn't. It works hard. Hey, look, our third host says, "What's up, Preston? Glad to have you back." Zach, man, I had to ring in on that. So,
we love Zach.
I know. Yeah. I know. So how have you been? How, collecting stories, what you been up to?
Oh, I'm keeping busy for sure.
Yes.
I only work part-time now, so I get to devote a lot more stuff, time to UFO stuff.
Nice.
But don't have as much free time as I thought I would. I'm still really busy.
But this is a good thing, yeah? I mean, considering, the world we live in right now is a little bit off some.
Getting lots of TV opportunities too. That's fun.
Good. Nice. Congrats. That's awesome.
Yeah, I was on Expedition X with Josh Gates.
Where are you now?
What was that like? I love him. Oh boy.
Yeah. I didn't get to meet him.
Yeah.
But I also did, this is so funny, just not too long ago, the Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
How the heck did you manage that one?
You got on the show?
Yeah.
Doing what? Did somebody get abducted?
Chloe saw a UFO.
Oh,
okay. I was gonna say if anybody, out of all of them, because she's my favorite, it would have been her. She's the most open-minded and the calmest one, in my opinion. But wow,
they were really nice. They wanted to learn how to call down UFOs.
Oh,
so
and how please, you're going to have to explain how you went through that process, especially on air. That's like no pressure.
Hey, it's not that hard. I mean, you can do this. This is actually getting a lot of traction these days. It's called a CE5, close encounter of the fifth kind, or a human-initiated contact.
Right.
And I've been doing it for years. Stephen Greer, you may have heard of, is
of course
the researcher who really spearheaded it.
Right.
But he used my cases. He's like, here's how you do it. Here's a case from Preston Dennett. And I'm like, wow. He came here to LA to speak about how to do it. And
that's crazy. So what do you go out? Do you just have to do a rain dance or something? Or do you go out there and just throw it out and connect up psychically, telepathically?
Yeah, you have to take off all your clothes and run.
Jesus, dance around the bonfire. Things like that. Yeah, all right, all right.
Wait a minute.
Might freak out the neighbors, but I'd be down.
When did we get to the Yaya sisterhood?
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
Fire, right?
I'm kidding. No. You just actually, it's pretty simple. You can use lights and meditation. I think is the real key is meditation. You just go out there and clear your mind and telepathically call out to the ETs and visualize your position. These are sort of the contact protocols, as they call them.
Wow.
And I'm simplifying it a little bit, but you blink your flashlight up in the air and you meditate, call out the ETs, visualize your position, calling them down.
Wow.
And the theory is these ETs are very telepathic, which they are.
Mm-hmm.
And it works. I tell you, I went out with Stephen Greer in our little LA group that we formed. Actually, there was a lot of us on the first night. It must have been about 50 of us.
Wow.
I had a sighting on the first night. Yeah, first night we had a sighting. And second night too. So I was hooked.
Are they skittish about crowds, or do you do better in smaller crowds?
Well, we went out for like 5 years and did it with a small group of about 10 of us, a core group. Right. And sometimes nothing would happen. I found out the best sort of ingredients is if you bring along a contactee, someone who's having a lot of contact, and also a UFO virgin, as I call them.
Ricky.
Yeah, someone who's never had contact but really wants it.
No. Never had it. Don't want it.
I've had it. I'm down.
I'm good.
It works. It works. I tell you, I've done it. I brought out the TV show Close Encounters, or no, just Encounters it was called, and another time the Learning Channel, they wanted to do it, and both times UFOs showed up. It worked.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's okay.
And it worked. It worked for Khloe Kardashian. They saw one. It came down. Honest to God.
I must have missed that episode. My guilty pleasures are some reality shows, but wow. So how did they react? I'm just curious because I missed that. Their series is over now.
Yeah, it was on the last season. I forget what episode it was, but not too hard to find. I recorded it.
Well, they're also streamed. They're also streamed right now as well, right? They're on a streaming service. I won't mention because they don't sponsor us, but they're on a streaming service.
Right.
So if you have that, so you can Google and it'll tell you which one, and then you can catch Preston.
I told them to remain calm, just remain calm and communicate, and maybe they'll land. And as soon as this thing appears, they're like, what is that? What is that? And her boyfriend gets all freaked out and runs inside, and she's right behind him, like, and they run back inside.
So it's a careful what you wish for situation.
Wow. I'm just I can't believe this. You hit like mainstream. That is fascinating because you've probably brought so much awareness to a whole other generation. That's fantastic. Regardless of like what network you're on, they have a huge audience and you brought a lot of awareness.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting, and I don't think it's a coincidence that the ETs decided to do a little reality TV.
Right?
I don't believe in coincidence. I really do believe that everything happens for a reason. And I think we've even touched on this because you've been on before. You're one of our frequent flyers that we love to have on. And it was sort of, you get chosen to raise awareness. You get chosen to tell stories. And eventually, you put that out into that collective, and next thing you know, everything just starts unfolding.
Right. You do get chosen. I just did a study called UFO Investigators Disease. Which turns out a lot of UFO researchers are having contact. And some were like Ray Fowler and Leo Sprinkle, both very prominent researchers.
Right.
Said that they were contacted as little tiny children. And the ETs, told them flat out, you will be doing important work. You're going to help people. You need to learn to read and write real well. You're going to be, a huge influence in this field.
I believe that.
They knew it. These ETs knew it from before they did.
But do you think it's because they primed them to do it? I think people get put in positions, even life after life. You'll see some people who just reincarnate back into their bloodlines, and it's just like that mission just keeps going on. At least like with ET, because there is that theory, if that, that they stay with the same families for ages and ages. That if they've abducted you, chances are they've done your parents, grandparents, great grandparents. So it's interesting.
All the way to caveman times.
Sorry, seriously. All the way to Dolly is in the chat room. Hi, Dolly. She said,
darling.
Ask Preston if he knew he was going to be a writer early on. Preston has an ancestor who wrote. Oh, thanks, Dolly.
Yeah, I sure did.
Telling all your secrets. There we go.
All right, that's fine. Fine. I did know. I knew from an early age I was going to be a writer. And it's funny, I have like 5 brothers and sisters, and they would look at me like, how do you know this? Like, I just know it. I just know it.
Wow.
It's going to be a thing.
And I didn't know it was going to be UFOs. But I found out, it didn't take long. Right after I started researching, I started having sightings.
Right.
It's like they knew. These ETs knew.
And they do, right?
They do, honest to God. Because this is a pattern. It's called UFO investigator's disease. Ed Conroy coined that term after he decided he was going to study Whitley Strieber and see if he was hoaxing or not. Dives into the deep end, and boom, he gets abducted by aliens.
I don't have this illness because I've never had an experience.
Nobody's talking about that, Amelia. We know you do.
No.
You just in freaking denial is all.
That's a different illness.
Just because you deny it does not make it not so.
No, I don't have any recollection like a lot of people do. So I
welcome my little ET friends. Some
people don't remember. They don't remember until the time comes. Well, I had a really close-up sighting, and it left my mind.
Oh.
Yeah.
Recently?
No. Well, I mean, I've had recent sightings, but I've remembered those.
Right, yes.
But I remember in 1992, I'm driving along, and this ball of light drops out of the sky. Thought it was a bird.
Of course you would. It's so sweet. It's a bird.
Look at what? Look at that. I'm like, okay, maybe it's a firecracker. It's late July.
Superman.
So I didn't want to think UFO, but it was an orb. It came right in front. I mean, it's as far away from I am as the computer right now.
Right. Wow. That's very close.
Yeah, it goes in front of my windshield, back and forth 3, 4, 5 times. Stops. It's over the hood of my car. I mean, it's close. And it dips down and goes straight up. And I forgot about it. It left my mind.
Did they assist you with it leaving your mind?
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, they do that. That's what really peeves me off is that, I think people would be more comfortable with the idea of being visited by, extraterrestrials if they're like lurkers though, and people, it's just like, it's like being lurked by somebody who just shows up in your bedroom at night. It's just wrong on so many levels that it's not even funny. But it's like, I think it would be easier if they just, while you're up sitting and, at the table, and I'll often be by myself. I can hear them knocking all over the darn house, and I'm sitting there going, like, can you not just come to the table? I'm here. No, you just have to wait till I'm slumbering and you're just going to bother me. Then I get ornery about it. So
I'm not so sure it would be easier. I've talked to people who've had that, and it can be scary having a fully conscious daylight encounter where an ET walks in. Yeah.
I think if you're ready.
They often
do that.
They'll contact people in the dream state. That often is how they start. Because that's more easy for people to sort of swallow that pill.
Yeah, you say it's easy, but after a while, it's like, step it up, man. Now I'm sleeping.
And people will go into denial too. And so they will like come to your face and say, stop denying me. Boom,
Right.
boom.
Yeah,
I'm here.
I haven't had that. I know. No, I
It's
haven't had
textbook
that.
denial, I'm saying.
No, I haven't had that experience where they've come
sweetie,
up to me and said,
it's okay.
Well, let me ask you, Amelia.
Okay?
Have you seen a UFO?
No.
Have you?
Not that I know of. No.
All right.
I mean, I've seen stars moving around, and I know they're stars.
Well, stars don't move around,
They fall.
Well, yeah, but they shoot across the sky real quick, but they don't like move around.
No, like that's what I mean, like falling, like straight. I've never seen anything do that. I've never seen anything of any footage that I've seen. I don't remember ever seeing anything like that. Like a lot of people won't just see them, they see them during the day through clouds, and I've only ever seen them in photos. I believe in them 100%. I don't deny it. I don't recall anything, so I'm only speaking from what I remember, and sometimes I think I had a lot of fear with it, and maybe that's why. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that would be another one of my questions. You have a strong emotional response to this subject. That's a definite red flag.
There we go.
When you have
very strong. It's not happening, and I don't want to talk about it. All right.
Yeah.
See, look.
I'll let you talk.
Have
you? No,
C5.
Dolly, I haven't.
Have you C5'd?
No, I haven't, Dolly. No. Wouldn't I remember that?
I don't know. I'll tell you, I did an experiment one night, and I just grabbed a pizza and I decided I'm going to go sit down by the river. And, this is probably a few months ago, and basically put it out there, and bam, they were in the house that night.
I'm telling you, they can show up when you least expect it.
There we go. See, right there. Right there. Right there. Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I jumped just a little. I startle so easy, and yet I talk to ghosts.
Yeah, well, so do a lot of contactees. They also are very psychic. This is sort of another clue.
You're not gonna end it, are you?
I'm just saying.
It's a thing.
Yes, I'm not going to argue with you.
Yeah, it's hard to find your comfort zone. I always thought like a daytime, thing would have been a little bit easier than a nighttime thing.
Well, I think if you're ready for it, do it. It'll happen. Just sit down and meditate, call to them, and they don't like bright lights. They're not really made for that. That's one of the reasons that they come at night. Also, it's hard for them to fly around during the day because they use the
the whole house is dark for them for the most part, aside from a couple of rooms. They're spoiled.
Sightings are far increased during the night, and I think the reason is because, well, this is actually what Dolly told me, and I've heard this from other contactees, that they use the magnetic fields to to pilot their craft, so to speak.
Right.
And they're much more chaotic during the day.
Right.
With the sunlight and all
I could see that.
Solar pulsing going on. So that's one reason. But yeah, they're definitely, they are evasive. They're not showing themselves full on daylight. I think they're smart enough not to do that quite yet, but we're real close to, I think, ready for full on contact. It wouldn't surprise me if that happens one of these days.
So what is your thought then? I'm going to ask you this. The alleged disclosure. I laugh about it, and I'm sure everybody asks you, but I like to get everybody's opinion because it's, to me, I looked at that and I went, okay, the guy on the corner of this camera will disclose more than this, okay? So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, can you hear me rolling my eyes?
I know. In unison, I know.
I mean, it's nice that they mentioned it.
That might be a thing.
I mean, you could it was a filled with lies. It's 9 pages of lies. Like we're beginning to study sightings. I'm like, beginning? You know what? This is a real phenomenon. You've known for 80 years.
Yeah.
Not more. Yeah.
They poured probably billions, but at least millions. I mean, we know this. Project Blue Book, Robertson Panel, Condon Committee cost taxpayers millions of dollars. And they were all complete whitewashes. It was a publicity stunt to sort of handle the publicity angle of the UFO phenomenon. If anyone sees a UFO, they're hoaxing, hallucinating, or misperceiving. There's nothing to it. Go away. There's no threat. That has been their policy for decades until this disclosure. The only thing that changed is they left open the possibility that maybe it could be, and you could just see them cringing when they said the word extraterrestrial, but they did say it.
That's one step honestly, for the next 50 years.
Yeah.
It's very difficult because reverse technology, all that stuff. Like, come on, people. We're not all ridiculously, we're not stupid. We get what's going on. We all see it. They're telling a whole nation. The whole world, know what we're all idiots. Yeah,
they absolutely 100% know what it is.
Right.
They have no excuse for saying, "Oh, it's radar clutter. One of these was a balloon. It could be a foreign technology." That is just bull. I mean, it took me a month of research to realize, okay, this is aliens.
Right.
So, Preston,
how do you? And Khloe Kardashian. I'm sorry. Military.
Khloe's a very open-minded, spiritual woman, though. She's very different from the others.
No, but seriously, if this is a thing, do you know that Russian scientists, in the 80s, I believe it was, didn't even have to go looking for UFOs. They used one specific area in Russia and called them, just like Preston said. They called them and they came, and that's how they studied them.
Yeah, it's easy to provoke a sighting. Jim and Cora Lorenzen, they're the real pioneers of UFO research, said, hey, they noticed this pattern. Anytime there was a new installation built that was of any technology at all, UFOs would show up, and predicted a number of sightings this way. And that's how the Russians did it too. They will show up to anything nuclear, any Air Force base. I did a study of prisons. They showed up all over prisons.
Why prisons?
Because they're technological installations. They're very fortified. They've got all kinds of technology to them.
Really? That's interesting.
They study rocket launches. They are there when we do anything of any technological level at all. They're watching closely.
Apparently. Sorry, go ahead, Amelia.
Oh, thank you. No, I was going to ask you because you were mentioning prisons and places like that. Denver International Airport is a huge hotspot for them. Is it because of all the EMF, because of the grounding with the planes and everything? Is that why, or is they hiding a base underneath somewhere?
Yeah, I know about Denver. Denver does have all kinds of conspiracy theories surrounding it, which I think are warranted. Because if you look into it, you will see, there's underground stuff going on there, for sure.
Pilots are always seeing ETs and crafts, and always reporting things like that.
Yeah, I did a study of UFOs in airports too, because LAX had a series of encounters where they were really brazen, coming and hovering right by the control towers, and that happened at Nellis Air Force Base. That happened at Heathrow. Look at the Chicago O'Hare Airport sighting.
Yeah,
they shut down an airport in China. They love airports. It's one of their things.
A lot of space, a lot of electricity.
Why? Like we can't even get them to freaking land and come in and have a dang talk, but yet they're out in the open in the middle of the day.
Yeah, they're doing it because they are conducting a publicity campaign. They tried to disclose. They wanted to land, and they had a meeting at Edwards Air Force Base with President Eisenhower.
I remember.
This is a pretty famous incident. It's gotten some ridicule, but no one's ever been able to debunk it. If you look into it, the evidence that this happened builds, and builds. Most researchers are taking this seriously now because the evidence is pretty overwhelming that it happened.
Right.
And according to the story, the ETs wanted to disclose, and we said no. And so now they're doing a grassroots movement. And this is why we see UFOs hovering over schoolyards, like Rua, Zimbabwe, which is one of 100 cases. Yeah. I just put out a book, well, relatively recently, called UFOs or Drive-In UFO Encounters. Right. UFOs at drive-in movie theaters.
Right.
Because I had a lady at work who talked about this encounter at the Paramount Drive-In. She said hundreds of people saw it. We all saw it. It was right next to the screen. And I found a bunch of cases. I found 100 cases. 100.
Wow, Preston. See, and you can't discredit when a crowd sees them.
Right?
That's tough to discredit, but yet the government all governments manage to talk their way through that. Why are they being so adamant about not disclosing?
Power, greed, control, money.
Control. I think
meanness. They're mean. They're not nice people. They do not have our best interests in mind. I hate to say it, but they've lied from the beginning. They knew about the drive-in theater encounters. I found some in Project Blue Book. None were declared unidentified, which is so ridiculous. There was a case in 1952 in Bakersfield, California, at the Terrace Drive-In, where hovered right next to the drive-in. Turned out there was a high-level military officer there who reported to the local sheriff's station. Local sheriff writes up a report. He interviewed like 20 people. He went down there. There was 100 people like, oh my God. And so he writes up a report. It goes to Edwards Air Force Base, which is UFO Central. It gets routed to Project Blue Book. They put it on a report marked action, sent it the next day to the commanding general of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Wright-Patterson is where we fly, do all the foreign technology. But not only that, they sent a report to Ent Air Force Base in Colorado, where we track all the incoming and outgoing traffic, and to the Director of Intelligence in Washington, D.C. So they took it very seriously. They know from the beginning they've been hovering over drive-in theaters. I've got other cases just like that. Same thing. Goes right to the highest level at Wright-Patterson. They know. They're such liars. I'm really mad at them. They're on my naughty list. They will not get away with it.
Buggers.
I'm so glad you're honest, because you are so honest, and you're driven, and you really want to seek the truth, and there's not I could never discredit you at all. Just honestly, I can't wait for this other book.
Oh yeah I'm putting them out, this next book with Dolly. I'm so excited because she was kind of led to me.
We are too.
I've had a number of people led to me. Just recently I had a guy from England call me up. He's like, are you Preston Dennett, the UFO researcher? And I'm like, yeah. He says,
the one and only. Here I am.
Hey, there's another Preston Dennett in Kansas. He made the dean's list.
One more. Hey.
I wonder about him. I'm like, I wonder what does he know about me?
Has he ever had any sightings, right? He probably does if he ever Googled himself. Right? You would come up.
The ETs are going to show up and they're like, oh, wrong Preston Dennett.
I think they know where you live.
They do.
There's no doubt. Yes.
Well, I know they do, because this guy from England calls me up and he's like, you're Preston? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, I had an encounter with Grays and they told me to call Preston Dennett and then I should speak to you.
That's crazy.
That's what I said. I'm like, wait, what?
Wow.
Holy
crap.
Wow.
The Grays know about me, and
so that's a bit of a game changer, right?
Yeah, it kind of like cemented it for me, because Dolly pretty much said something very similar.
Right.
And I had a couple of other people tell me that, but I'm like, no, shut up. I'm not. But after you hear it like a few times, you start to believe it.
Some incidents can really drive the point home, but it's nice to have the validations when people are just, contacting you. Like, that's not.
They trust you there.
Yeah. One lady, I'll call her Wendy. I remember she same thing. She's like, the ET told her it's okay to talk to me, and I'm transcribing her interview. She talked about kicking an alien in the neck.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh my God, yeah.
Was that like out of fear, or was she defending herself? Was that out of fear, or did something happen that they heard her?
No, they didn't hurt her. They just showed up in the middle of the night, and she leapt out of bed and like, hiya!
Right there. That's what I'm talking about. They're like lurkers.
And right? she now takes a very positive viewpoint towards. They healed her. They healed her of a cyst.
Oh.
She's super, super psychic. She's a great friend.
Right.
But at any rate, I'm transcribing the interview. I'm like, I wonder if she's for real, because got to that point where she kicked the ET in the neck. I'm like, gosh, I've heard that once before, but this is an extensive case. I mean, she had hybrid babies. Mm-hmm. This was relatively early on in my research, 1994 about. Mm-hmm. And I'm leaning back in my chair and thinking, I wonder about Wendy. I know she's telling me the truth. And I interviewed her face to face. And then I get this really strong impulse to run to the roof of my condo. And I couldn't resist it. I honestly could not. Because I'm like, I'm not going up there. I'm not allowed. You're not allowed up there. And next thing I knew, I'm up there. And,
being that guy. Yeah.
And I grabbed my glasses.
Oh my god, that is so funny. Binoculars.
No, I just grabbed my glasses. That's it. Because I use them for driving. I actually ran downstairs and pulled them out of my car.
Right.
So I was like seriously thinking about this. I guess I don't know. I found myself up there, and I'm up there like 10, 20 seconds, thinking, what the heck am I doing up here? And they show up. These ETs show up, and they gave me a message. They're like, "Hi, it's us. We're Wendy's ETs. You don't believe? Watch this." Seriously, that's the gist of what they said. But it was all kind of like, boom, telepathic.
Wow.
And then they start darting around, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I'm like, whoa, oh my God.
It happens so easily for some people. What the hell?
Yeah, Michelle's struggling.
Like I go stand on the roof of my dining house.
She's so envious right now. Yeah. Actually. I'm like, you need to go out there and keep talking, because she actually wants that,
Yeah,
So,
I mean.
But they're around. I hear them. Like, they're knocking. You should have heard last night. This big boom. Right when I'm doing a radio show, I'm like,
they spend a lot of time in your. They spend a lot of time in her walls. Yeah. They spend a lot of time in her walls.
And it's like, can you not make any noise at least? It's silly. It's really ridiculous. But it's like they just won't do it. They just won't.
Yeah. You don't want to startle the pups either, right? Dogs are very sensitive.
Probably trying to get you used to their presence.
It's been about a year now. I'm there.
Okay. I've got a question for you.
It's E.T. telling you. Yeah.
Tell her we're there.
Tell Michelle, okay, we're going to do this and have her ready.
They do call people on the phone, by the way. That is a thing. I am not lying. I've got 20 some cases. It happened to one of Bud Hopkins' clients. Raymond Fowler had a case. I have about 3 cases involving that.
Wow.
One guy, they actually spoke to him, said, we're coming soon. That's what they told him. The time is soon.
Wow. Can I ask you a question? Because I know a lot of people ask me this question, and I can't answer it because I've never had an encounter. But with all these cases that you've studied, collectively, do you have an idea of why they're coming around and what they want from us?
Yeah, I think we've got to. Ooh. I think we have a pretty good handle on their agenda, actually. Seriously, I think, and other researchers, I think, have found out the same thing. They've got several reasons they're here. Mm-hmm. The Greys do have an agenda with the hybrid babies, for sure, because they are having trouble reproducing. And so they, due to genetic damage and genetic intervention and manipulation. So that is one of their agendas. Another is to save us from destroying our planet. This is the message they give to people. Why are you messing around with nuclear power? Stop polluting your planet. If you don't stop the greed and negativity you are putting out, you will destroy your planet like we did. That is what they're saying. over and over again.
Oh my gosh.
That is a major agenda. Another is to get us off fossil fuels. They take people to the engine room over and over again. They will do this and say, why are you using fossil fuels? There are other energy sources. Here's how we do it. Another is to wake people up psychically. Most people who have extensive contact have a huge psychic boost because of it. They become, in a word, spiritually enlightened, in 2 words.
Right. Which makes sense, because then you connect more to source and to the collective, and you're more aware of them. It's like a form of evolution, right?
They teach people to do healing, astral travel, psychic reading, channeling, past life recall, all of these things.
Right. It's just like, again, it's just, this is all stuff that we should already know. This should already be with us. It's just been conditioned out of us, as you know, whether it's in the food, whether it's just in media, subliminally, you know, we're just not, I always say we're the species with amnesia.
Exactly. We should know our past lives. We should know that we're immortal. Death is a lie. Fear is a lie.
Yeah.
The universe is safe. We have been trained to fear
everything.
Well, that's how they control you, right?
So
as long as you need them, you're always going to be afraid.
Here's I mean, this is something that people seem to be really, again, is it a fear-mongering thing? When you talk about having hybrid babies, you know, I kind of wonder, is it just to, you know, replenish their own race, or is it to save ours in the future? And should people be more receptive to it?
Well, I don't think we're going to go extinct because they've collected genetic material.
No, but I mean, like, we could blow ourselves to smithereens. Maybe they're maybe they're preserving our species somehow.
Exactly. Yeah, I think there's some truth to that. And there are people who are completely human who are growing up on UFOs.
Wow.
And I do think they are basically genetically upgrading us. I can't prove this, but if you look at like ancient writings from the Bible to Sanskrit to Egyptian hieroglyphs, petroglyphs, I mean, if you look at it, they've been around for a long time. I don't think the hybrid baby phenomena is necessarily new. But look at our longevity has doubled over the past couple of hundred years. There's a case in Florida I always like to quote where this guy was being taken. And the Greys show up. He's pretty used to it by now. And he's like, hey, if you're going to take me, fix my hernia. And they're like, okay, we know this condition of which you speak and we will repair it. And they did.
Wow.
And then he's like, why are you taking me? Why? Why do you keep taking me? And they said, we are interested in your genetic potential to live a long time.
Wow.
And his grandfather was 106.
Wow.
Still healthy and active. So that, I'm like, what's going on here? They are studying people who live a long time. Why?
They must. Sorry.
They genetically upgrade people. This is a thing. John Mack talked about it. This happened to John Hunter Gray. He had an encounter. Afterwards, he had 20 physiological improvements. He was in his 30s or 40s. He grew like 3 inches. His feet grew a couple of sizes. His wrinkles disappeared. His scars went away. He stopped smoking. He stopped getting the flu each year. I mean, his nails grew faster. He started getting 5 o'clock shadow again. I mean, it just went on and on. He had 20 physiological improvements. This is a health upgrade.
Here's a question for you. You said that they study and they're fascinated by longevity in life. So I'm wondering, Sardinia is got one of the highest populations of centenarians. Do they have a lot of sightings?
I've not done a study of that. That's a good idea.
They are studying that island off of Italy, off the coast, the west coast of Italy, Sardinia, for years because they have such a huge population. Centenarians are people who are 100 and up. And they have a huge, I know you know that. I'm just saying for the audience because I said it so quickly. But they have a huge population there. like more than 80% of that island. So it would be interesting to see if there's any interaction there and how many sightings they have.
Yeah, that would be very interesting, because I've studied like who's having contact and why, and we do know it tracks families. One thing I did find is that, because I kept noticing like people who are contactees they're so nice. They're such nice people. I'm like, wow, this is interesting. And so I'm like, it's evenly divided between men and women. It's not race. I've interviewed people of every race pretty much.
Blood type?
Blood type? No.
Wow. Thank God I'm safe.
It's not blood type. It's not race, religion, political affiliation, and none of that. What I found was your job actually can increase your chances of being contacted. Because I started noticing a lot of social workers. I'm like, is this a thing? And I started looking at all the people's jobs. And I went back to my interviews, because you try to ask all the questions, because you never know what kind of pattern is going to exert itself. And I'm like, well, there's an awful lot of doctors too, a lot of teachers, a lot of artists, a lot of environmentalists, animal rights activists, people who are doing good work for humanity, writers, inventors, police officers, entertainers, musicians.
Right.
It's a loose pattern, but it turns up.
I think, like you say, anybody who can make a difference, you know,
which
provide platforms to the world for people with a story, maybe.
It's another reason why I'm convinced these guys are not evil muhaha here to hurt and take over people.
Right.
When you say these guys, sorry, Preston, when you say these guys, are you referring to one race or all the races of aliens?
All of them, generally speaking, because there is a bell curve. I have talked to people who've had, very scary experiences. But some people will describe pretty much identical experiences and react differently. I've talked to some guys who are really religious, and one guy's like, these guys are demons. I hate them. And he just will not budge. But his experiences pretty much match what other people have said. He's just not happy about it. Right. And what often happens is people will have an experience, and it can be very scary because we're trained in fear. To, anything that looks different is scary.
Maybe because they're fighting it.
And so what happens is people are taken on board, and they're like scared, and like, okay, the ETs are like, oh my gosh, this person is freaking out. What are we going to do?
Knock them out.
Knock them out. Exactly. Paralyze them, because they're going to hit you, so they paralyze them and knock you out.
Right.
And so what happens is you wake up in bed, sweating, and like with images of these ETs coming at you with a needle or something, and that's all you've got. And they're like, shoot, because that's not the impression they're trying to give. And when someone does not have a strong fear response, they have a completely different encounter. And so this is what I keep seeing. I'm like, wow, it can be very scary at first, and people will have PTSD and nightmares. But what happens is, if they get over this fear barrier, and they often do, they are given freedom of movement, and they're given a tour of the craft, and they're shown the engine room, and they're shown the control room, and they're taken out and shown the stars and shown Saturn. I've got like 4 or 5 cases now. People have been shown Saturn.
I've had memories of seeing the stars. It's like you just wake up and it's like, did I just see the stars? It's very cool.
This happened to Dolly. So what happens is we need to get over our fear, because what happens is people will, trauma comes out first. We have to deal with it. And so people are left with the impression like, well, I'm traumatized. These guys are doing experiments on me. I'm like, well, when they're examining you, it's often for healing purposes.
Right.
Wow.
I've documented 300 cases, and they come from every major researcher. Barbara Lamb, John Mack, David Jacobs, Bud Hopkins, Edith Fiore. I mean, you name it. Tim Beckley. I could go on. All the researchers have these cases. Philip Mantle, Timothy Good. And what I don't have is like ETs coming at people and trying to scare them.
Right.
Purposefully trying to hurt them.
Right.
Right. But I'm not going to say every case is fun, because it's not.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you get some people who wake up and they feel like they're being sucked out a window. That is fearful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you wake up in the middle of that, it's going to be a little frightening.
Well, they say, don't be afraid, we won't hurt you. But then they suck you out of the window.
That's what I'm saying.
Or through a roof.
In the dark, you hear shit. You're just like, what is that? Then they psychologically, it's like a psychological prowling thing. I could see, I've heard people, with different perspectives. And that seems to be the one thing that they don't like, is like, why do they have to act like predators? It's like, this is true. I'll give it to you.
Well, they have knocked on people's front door. I mean, this happened to Whitley Strieber.
Right.
He had a visitor to his house. Gosh, what was his name? I forget it. But he wanted to have contact. Right. Someone knocked on the front door, and it was ETs. He thought it was a bag lady. But
I get a vision of E.T. the movie. His little.
But did they look like ETs, or did they look human?
They put on a screen memory for this gentleman. God, I wish I could remember his name. It'll come to me. But Whitley Strieber heard the door knocking, so he comes down the stairs and saw it, and all happening. It's like, oh no, these were the Greys.
Wow.
So there are a few cases like that where they will knock on your front door and.
I mean, instead of just like run through your walls and stuff, knock stuff around, and that would be nice. That would be nice.
Contact comes in a bunch of different ways. I mean, it can be just telepathic. They will call you up on the telephone.
I'd be okay with that too.
You need to ask for that one. That's the only one you haven't asked for.
I know.
Try it.
I won't say I haven't had amazing experiences. I have, through devices.
Through their stereos. That happened to Whitley Strieber. That happened to a family in Colorado.
Yeah.
That happened in a number of cases.
I've had a similar experience. Yeah. With a full range of like everything. It was just, I recorded it. It was just mind blowing.
Yep.
So.
They showed them in my latest book, Wondrous. This one lady, she decided to go out jogging outside of her home in O'Fallon, Illinois, and saw what she thought was a man on stilts walking down Kyle Road near her home.
That's a big gray.
And it was really tall. It was almost tall as the street light. So it walks under the street light, and it's a praying mantis.
No.
See,
we hear bad things about them.
I have not heard good things about the mantis. Like through clients who, here's where the paranormal seems to cross a little bit with ufology, and I mean, I've been doing this 18 years. I learned early on that they seem to use even portals that are similar, dimensional, right? And the mantis, like people would just feel like they were just being like just terrorized by them. Is this mindset again, or is this really, are they okay? They just look creepy.
Well, I've gotten both sides. Some people are like not happy about it. They seem to be in charge and are bossing the Greys around, and a person might be like lying there on the table screaming in fear, and they don't seem to quite understand what humans are going through.
I know.
So I think part of the problem is that our minds are compartmentalized, and they're talking to a larger part of our mind, that we're not even aware of, because we're giving permission on some level. Right. This is what a lot of contactees are finding out, especially after they've gone under hypnosis and recovered all their memories. And but the praying mantis do scare people, because I mean, let's face it, if you see a 9-foot tall bug-like creature coming at you, that's going to be scary.
I can't imagine 9 feet.
But I talked to a Navy medic, Kevin Kamen. His bunkmate was a contactee. And Kevin's like, oh yeah, sure you are. He's like, no, I am. I've been to their planet. They take me on their ship all the time. Kevin's like, all right, I want to meet your little green friends. And his bunkmate says, sure, I will tell them. And comes back a few days later, they're on a ship at sea. And he says, okay, I talked to them and they said they will show themselves to you. And they came the next day on the ship.
Wow.
His bunkmate says, okay, go up on deck. You'll see them. Kevin goes up onto the deck. It's a 600-foot-long Navy ship in the Atlantic outside the Bermuda Triangle. And Kevin looks up and sees this giant UFO. No one else seems to be able to see it. He tries to get other witnesses. Next thing he knows, he's on board, and these ETs start talking to him. He's afraid to turn around because he's freaking out. But they talk to him. They tell him all this information. They told him they can speak all the languages on our planet. He's like, are you going to eat me? And they said, no, you watch too many horror movies. We're not going to eat you.
You're fine.
I don't blame him for asking that question. Sorry.
He says, where do you come from? They showed him a star chart. They said, yes, is Roswell real? They said, yes. They said, since you started contacting or using nuclear bombs, that has attracted a lot of races to study you because you're causing problems in other dimensions. And you've started a countdown clock.
Wow.
They said, because of your nuclear power, they said, because you're messing around with nuclear power, you've started a countdown clock and all these disasters will happen. And they showed him this screen, which she said was like looking outside of a window. And they showed him hurricane after hurricane after hurricane, and tornadoes and landslides and earthquakes. It's all
been happening. Yeah.
And they said, this is going to happen and you cannot stop it.
Wow.
And finally he turns around and looks at him. He's like, what do you look like? And they said, well, we're not little and we're not green. And he's like, well, what do you look like? And they said, well, sometimes our appearance scares people. And he finally turns around and he sees them. And they're in the center of the room on these white kind of stone-looking chairs. And they're 15-foot tall praying mantis.
Wow.
And one stands up and walks over to him. Freaks him out.
That's not unnerving. Just saying.
He said they radiated intelligence. Their eyes were about as big as a basketball.
Wow.
One reaches down and says, would you like to go to our planet? And he said, no.
I'm good.
We can talk here. Let me get you a coffee.
He's like, I'd like to go now. I would like to leave. And they said, okay. And they touched his shoulder. Said they had weird looking hands. And touched his shoulder, and he blacked out. And he was back on the ship in his bed, which was not where he started.
Right.
And he was screaming, covered in sweat. And his friend, the contactee, whips open the curtain that surrounds his bed and grins ear to ear like, so how did you like your little ride?
Shut up, I hate you. Right.
That's what Kevin said. Yep.
So that's got to be awkward. You know, there's a lot of different theories with, want to go to our planet, for example. How can you do that? And I mean in a way that not every planet, we're not built to be on every planet. Right. Density wise,
we're not built for Earth. We're not built for Earth.
An interesting statement. Why do you say that?
Yeah.
Because it started out when I heard about human looking aliens. I'm like, well, that's odd. There's some that look just like us.
Right.
What does that mean about human origins? Because human origins is, the idea of evolution and us evolving from monkeys seemed quite a stretch to me. I'm certainly not religious. I can't say I believe in creationism either.
Yeah.
But just looking at the idea of evolution and everything from giraffes to peacocks to, I'm like, really, this happened in 5 million years? It's quite. So now we're looking at human-looking ETs, and then talk of genetic manipulation, and humans are not well adapted to Earth. We can only survive in a very narrow temperature range. And anyone who's taller than 5.5 feet has lower back problems.
That's true.
I just started kind of going down this list, and finally this guy Ellis Silver wrote a book called "Humans Are Not from Earth," and he did a whole study of it. And he says, and he builds a pretty compelling argument that we're not really that well adapted.
Right.
And so what the situation appears to be is that the humanoid form is the norm. This is what people always describe. It's very Star Trek-y.
It is, yeah.
Which bothered me. That's why I didn't get involved in UFO research. I'm like, shut up. I'm looking. If there's aliens, they're gonna look like the Blob.
Right. Screw your team, Rodberry. Right.
And I thought I was so smart,
Yeah.
But no, the humanoid form is the norm. This is what the evidence is showing us.
Right.
Whether they're grays or praying mantis or strange humanoids of any kind, they have arms and legs and a head and eyes and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And people are being taken to other planets, and oxygen, Earth-like planets seems to be the norm.
Wow.
And we do see grays walking around without helmets. Most ETs that people see do not have helmets. Some do.
Mm-hmm.
That actually does turn up. That's not uncommon. People describe like diving gear type thing.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And people people who are taken on board will describe differences in atmosphere. Some have difficulty breathing. We'll describe it as being muggy or thick, or some say the air is really silky and thin. Or, but generally, it's the very much like comfortable. It's Earth normal. Gravity's normal. The temperature's within our range. The air is breathable. But this could be one of the reasons we don't see grays walking around for long periods of time. This is what David Jacobs' research showed, that the hybrids can come to Earth, but they have trouble lasting for too long. And that might be true with the grays as well.
Right.
That would explain why they're on ships, yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's the degree of hybrid, too. I imagine the closer you get to the real thing, the easier it gets.
I think we're all probably ETs. Honestly, I'm not so because the theory is we came from Mars. This is somewhat popular within the UFO community. And I asked Dolly about this, and she's like, "Yep, that's true. We were originally on Mars, and we were relocated to Earth." And of all the people I've interviewed, I have to say that she has better recall than anyone else I've ever interviewed. So I'm so excited about this book we're putting together. Wait till you talk to her. I mean, she blows my mind.
Next week, Preston. Next week.
Next Wednesday.
She's on next Wednesday.
Because I've talked to a lot of people who've had contact, and memory problems are the norm. Even people who are having fully conscious contact still have some trouble with it. Jim Sparks is one who has had full unconscious contact. I've talked to a few others. But Dolly says from age 14, she's like, that's it. They're taking me. I'm going to know. I'm taking the bull by the horns. I want control. And she's like, I'm going to remember. And she did.
Right.
And she's telling me.
If you can alter your own reality, then why couldn't you make yourself remember?
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I think it's just a matter of willpower and deciding to do it and facing your fears. She's a very, very strong person.
She is. She's lovely.
But I've talked to a lot of people, and everything she's telling me, other people have told me piecemeal. But to hear it coming in a full, continuous stream is like really delightful. Like, wow, another person said this, check. Another person said, check.
Yeah.
Because like
I think it's great.
Yeah, one guy told me about being taken to see Saturn. I'm like, wow, this is amazing, because I know Leo Sprinkle had that happen. Raymond Fowler had that happen. Dolly talked about that. I've had people tell me about being taken to other planets. That's pretty rare. Most people don't remember that.
That would be really fascinating.
Is there a popular planet that they frequent?
Yeah, I mean, they have planets that they go to. This is still real cutting edge. You'll have to talk to Dolly about this. She'll tell you what she can.
Oh, yeah. We'll let her go crazy next week for sure. For sure.
Absolutely a thing. I've talked to some Native Americans, and they seem to be a lot more in tune with the star people.
Look at the Hopi, right?
Yeah.
Have you interviewed anybody like from the Hopi Indians?
No, I interviewed this guy, Stan Hughes, from the Blood Tribe in Canada.
Oh,
and he had full conscious contact with what we would call a human-looking ET. I don't like the term Nordic,
Right.
Because that says, white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed.
Right. It's
and
typical.
The ET he saw, he said, looked Middle Eastern. Had dark eyes, dark skin, dark hair, and was handsome and strong, and wore a blue jumpsuit and silver boots, and smiled from ear to ear.
Wow.
The benevolent contact.
Right.
Yeah, the Native Americans have a better relationship, I think, than a lot of people, because they recognize that they are related. They call them their ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite new researchers is R.D. Six-Killer Clark, who's put out a bunch of books, and she's putting forth a bunch of contact narratives that are significantly different from, the scary, Gray's abducting and anal probing people.
They're taking your temperature. They do it to your dog. Stop it.
Because the truth is, I think that these guys are not, bad news.
Right.
I really, after initially I was like horrified, but after 35 years of research, I'm like, yay, I'm so glad they're here. They are trying to save us from destroying ourselves, working really hard. I've got an account in my latest book, Wondrous, which is part of you may have heard of the Malmstrom incident.
Yes, actually.
This occurred in 1967, where UFOs came down and shut down nuclear missiles at Malmstrom Air Force Base. Shut them down. I talked to a first-hand witness, and man, oh man, Mel Hansen is his name. Right. He was there. He saw them. He was outside, right next to one of the silos. This UFO comes down, hovers over it, and shuts down the missile. And it goes right back online because I've got backup, right? It goes back on generator power. Well, they shut that down. And it goes back online because it has battery power. And they shut that down. And this is just one. All of these, they had some 20 missiles there. And all of them are separate, completely separate systems. They shut all of them down. And this is a clear message. Stop messing around with nuclear power.
Yeah.
I think from a military perspective, they must have been crapping their pants. Because
nuclear
do
power.
You believe us now? Or was it a big weather balloon? Sorry.
No, it's okay. Nuclear power would affect everybody. It would be universal. It wouldn't just be contained to Earth.
Yeah, that's what they said. That's what the ETs
that
tell people. That
explosion would be everywhere.
They said it actually rips holes in other dimensions that we're not aware of.
That's right.
It makes total sense, because the biggest story out there is, if I push the button, I'm going to take out more than just our country, that country I'm focused on. I'm going to take out the whole, that whole hemisphere, if not all of the world. So why would anybody do it? It doesn't make any sense.
It's going to leave a big dimensionally speaking. Yeah. Alternate universes, alternate parallel universes, parallel dimensions. Let's face it, if it works on frequency, it's like listening to a radio station. You can only do one at a time, but it doesn't mean that you don't have all of those dimensions within your space that you can literally bounce back and forth.
Exactly. This is one of many reasons why I don't trust the governments, the power elite, the 1%ers, the people who are covering this up. Yeah. I'm like, think about the nuclear power. What are you doing? Why? Why would they sell weapons to both sides of countries and then fund a war? That makes zero sense.
That's another show. That's a whole other. I could talk about that for hours.
I know.
Power. When you're that high up and you're the 1%er, it's no longer about money. It's about power. It's not about money, because they have all the money. When you're the one or the first two, and I'm not going to mention names, it's all about power. Look at them going at it right now to get their ships on the moon and stuff. Look at them. It's not about
Mars. Yeah.
Like, you would think with all that money, you just enjoy life. No, I need to do this and I need to do. It's ego and power.
Yeah. Shame on them. Yeah. Shame.
Bastards. There, I said it.
But we need the balance, right? That's you can't have all good. It's all a learning curve. But
I would love if they would have a near-death experience. Because when you have a near-death experience, you feel all the feelings of all the people you've hurt.
Yeah, see, I don't think the other side will let them in. I don't think any of that exists on that side. But it's so disappointing for me. Yeah, I wish they would interfere a little bit more with that group.
But see, that's the theories also, is, they don't want to interfere. They have to be careful to interfere. You hear so many different theories.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go back like hundreds of years, I don't even remember the date. It could be 400 AD, BC. Don't quote me on it. But there was this sort of a treaty called, it was a Muhammad, not like the Prophet Muhammad. This is totally separate from that. But basically, ET made contact. And this agreement came into place stating that they would only deal with the elite. They would not deal with anyone else. So I'm guessing probably 480, And I thought that went way, way back. That hasn't changed.
Yeah, well, I haven't heard of that.
I'll send it to you.
But I do know that they are contacting people of all levels of society.
But I think they got fed up, and you try to do the right thing, working with the powers that be that you think are doing the right thing for their people. This goes back a really long time ago, right? So I think, because there's a lot of speculation in there, it clearly states that they weren't doing or holding up to their end of things. So they started going off and branching out separately to the people instead of as a collective.
Well, we have free will. I think they want us to solve our own problems. This is what contactees have been told. Because you're not going to learn if your parent teaches you everything, does everything for you. If your parent fills up your gas tank, ties your shoes, feeds you with the spoon, you're not going to know how to feed yourself.
That's true.
Good point. Yes.
That's true.
I mean, they could hand us the medical technology, but then we wouldn't even know how to, study or learn.
Mm-hmm.
And if they handed us this medical technology, we'd probably abuse it.
So out of these people then that they contact, are those people that just say, you know what, I want to be off world. I just can't do it here. It's just a lot. I mean, a lot of us, how many people out there feel that they don't belong in this time or place? We spoke about this last night, probably because we come from someplace else, or maybe it is a past life thing. Who knows? But I mean, are there people, like, out of these people you've interviewed, who say, no, I wanted to go back and they wouldn't let me for this reason, or it was offered and I didn't take it?
That theme does turn up. People have past life memories as an ET.
Right.
Some volunteered to go to Earth.
Right.
And some feel very much like they're on a mission to enlighten humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And by and large, they do feel a sense of not belonging to Earth.
Right.
Many of them feel like the ETs are their family, their friends. Mm-hmm. That is absolutely something I hear quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say there's something to that. I saw a channel, Bashar. You may have heard of Bashar.
Yes.
Desrochers.
Yes.
I had a reading with him. He pointed to me. He was
how
like,
did that go?
It was interesting. This was very early on. I wasn't at all well known. I don't think I'd written any books or anything. And he points to me and says, you're here to anchor the ET energy. You were an ET in a past life. I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
I mean, for him, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it was cool. And I got to see 2 or 3 other channelers. I was just studying channeling at that time because I'm studying all the paranormal. That's because it's all related to this.
Yeah.
And all the channelers said that, I was an ET in a past life. I'm like, great. All right.
So why can't you, I mean, obviously in this life, I mean, is it not the same essence that bounces around from physical to physical?
Yeah, I would think so. We're eternal entities who just change our clothes and change our name.
Give us a new skin suit. Yeah.
Wow. So, we're all coming down to Earth school. It's a tough, brutal school, isn't it? Man, oh man.
It is.
It's like
I'm looking forward to graduating.
Yeah.
I know, but they keep bringing us back for whatever reason. So, I mean, I don't know. So there's a reincarnation thing, an ET thing. It's a hard mix.
Yeah. Do we have control on that that recycling thing? Can we say, no, I'm not going back?
I've looked into it to a certain degree, and it's hard to get a good, solid answer on that, but I'm going to say yes. But what happens is you get over to the other side and you have a council with all your loved ones, and they're like, well, you didn't finish your mission. You still have some greed here that you need to work on. Or you said you would help here, or you never explored what it's like to be this.
Oh God. I couldn't do high school again. Seriously, I just couldn't. I just couldn't. Oh my God.
I feel like a lot of
last time.
I feel like a lot of people in this day and age are on their, graduation. They're on their last year, they're seniors, so to speak.
Thank you for that, because when I was in high school, I did really well in school, but I hated being there, it was just crazy. I hated being. I felt like it was a waste of my time, and I've done this so many times before. Why am I still here? Like it was that kind of thing, right? So I'm glad to hear that there's a possibility I can say, nah.
Yeah, most people who have been hypnotized to record past lives and life between lives are believe that they came down for altruistic purposes to help raise the consciousness of humanity. And so this is one of the big attractions to ETs right now, is because we're at that point where we're raising up, and there's going to be a culling of the herd, so to speak, or picking all the flowers that bloomed, and all the rest have to go and back to school.
The bulbs go back in the dirt.
Yep.
So to speak.
Yep.
Wow.
We should do a station ID, sponsor
ID.
Yeah,
I still have 1026. Yeah, we are definitely. Let me just, because I'm dying. These glasses are killing me, but I'm blind. You're listening right now to The Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and myself, Amelia Pisano, and our amazing returning guest, Preston Dennett. It's always a pleasure having you. Tonight, we are airing live, and every night we are airing live from New Orleans, 105.3 FM. We are, oh my gosh, I had to write this down because we have so many darn YouTube channels. UFO Paranormal Radio, UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials Paranormal Radio. We are UPRN Talk Radio. And tonight and every night, thank you, Folgers, for fully sponsoring our show. So thank you, Folgers. We love you. And thank you for tuning in last night. We love you guys.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was feeling a little bit jaded when that other sponsor was mentioned.
Oh, I know. Well, that's
I know.
Joe's deal.
Sorry. I know. Joe decided he was going to interview us last night. I'm just like, what? I have my own sponsor. What makes me feel like I'm cheating on my sponsor? That's not a thing.
I know. He did a great interview, though. He was really good.
No, it was good. It was good. So, your next book, when you talk about investigators, do you find people who investigate ufology get into all of this eventually? Because there are some organizations that just study UFOs. They don't really get into, they don't get into extraterrestrials or those sort of experiences at all. But do you find that it's just a matter of time before they do get abducted?
It's definitely a thing. I did a study of it. Yeah, if you start looking into UFOs, they will look into you. They're very much on top of things. Right. And that's true for ghosts, too. I mean, if you start walking through haunted cemeteries and haunted prisons and hospitals and so forth, you bring ghosts home.
This is true.
It's you're going
to bring an alien home. That's great.
No.
So yeah, I mean, it's an idea whose time has come. ETs, I think, we're on the verge of open official contact. Disclosure will happen. It's not going to be our government, I don't think.
No,
it might be Mexico, it might be Brazil, Chile, a smaller government,
Canada.
Or maybe.
Hey, France discloses all the time. They're very open with their people. They have been for years and years.
I'm not sure any government is really going to do it. I think it's probably going to come from a CE5 group.
Yeah.
Or a major event, a la Phoenix Lights or something along those lines, where they're like, all right, we're done. We're showing ourselves. They're ready.
And do you find with a lot of what the videos that the government has or military has put out there, it's all about, look at, we're being swarmed, look at, our pilots are being chased. Do you think they're trying to instill more fear? Because now we're not fearful of them anymore. Everybody's got a camera phone. Everybody's got eyes on the sky. So they have to come up with something almost like a whole other gimmick. Do you think they're trying to make you fearful of contact?
Yeah, I sure do. And this is why the media is very fear slanted, very fear based. And a lot of the shows we see are like, aliens are coming to take over. Look at a lot of the movies are very fear based.
Yeah.
Very few are friendly aliens, like, Starman, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, Close Encounters.
Yeah.
All the rest are pretty much
Contact
fear-based.
was the newest one. I really enjoyed that one. I thought that was really well done.
What about that one with Amy Adams? What was that called? Oh my gosh.
Arrival.
Yeah. What did you think of that? Like, pop culture wise, I watched it. What was it, a week or two ago? Because I text Michelle like 100 times a day, but I think I told you when I was watching it, and I saw it from a different perspective this time because, of the shows and everything, and speaking to so many people and learning so much. It was a different view for me. How did you feel with that interpretation?
I enjoyed it as entertainment. It kind of bothered me because it wasn't accurate in terms
at
of
all, right?
not really. I mean, it had some interesting points, like how, how we might react to an alien presence, and how fear-based we are when really it's not what they're all about. But I'm still waiting for the really good UFO movie. My favorite, I think the one that got it best so far is still Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah. And
The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Yeah.
Those are probably closest to reality.
I'm still disappointed that Fourth Kind is not real.
Yeah, that was a horror movie.
I love that.
The government is putting forth an alien threat narrative, and it's not warranted. It's not true.
No,
and they are.
Yeah, I think there's a question in chat.
Sorry. No, but I cut Preston off. Are you finished? Sorry, I don't want to read the question. Preston was still talking.
No, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Zachman is asking, when we come into contact with ETs publicly, will it be at random or will it be on an orchestrated event, and why?
Orchestrated. And I'm going to underline that and put it in bold and put an exclamation point after it.
Wow.
Because they're very, very, very much on top of things. I mean, they are the ones who are in control ultimately. And I think they're very, very carefully doing what they're doing, and are doing, it's not a coincidence when they're showing themselves to a person. They know who is seeing them. They're showing themselves to school children. Why would they do that? It's a very clever way to sort of announce their presence.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, yes.
And bit by bit, they're showing themselves more and more and more. I think it's very much orchestrated. And I think at some point we are going to have a huge wave of sightings where they just land en masse, and it's going to be, I mean, calling it a mystery is almost disingenuous at this point. The government knows what it is.
Right.
People know what it is. It's aliens. Don't tell me it's interdimensionals or crypto, ultra, whatever. They're aliens. They're extraterrestrials. We know what they are. Right. We have enough evidence, whether it's landing traces or radar returns, multiple eyewitness accounts, onboard experience, implant removals, for Pete's sake.
Right. Stop it. Yeah. It's like making you, like, giving you bad, like, whiplash.
Yeah. So crash retrievals.
Do they work together, like this orchestrated event? Will there be many races just saying, screw it, we're all in, and everyone's going to participate? Or do you think some will come before others?
No, I think it's going to be together. It might be just one race, but all of them are going to know about it. They all know what each other are doing, because we are very I said it before, compartmentalized. We're deaf. Let me put it that way. We're not, because we're not using our telepathy, which is a natural human ability.
Really?
And it's something we do have. It's been proven in a laboratory setting. We are all telepathic. We're all very much in touch with each other in our larger minds. And this all becomes apparent when you start doing astral travel. And for contactees know it because they have very strong intuitive abilities. And they're trying to wake us up to that ability to become telepathic. So yeah, when they land, all the ETs out there will know it. They do work together. And we see this. We see humans working with praying mantis, working with greys, working with strange humanoids of all kinds.
And should people be afraid to talk about their experiences, or should they be screaming it out from the rooftops?
Well, that's to each person to make that decision.
But what does what would ET like you to do? Like, are they approaching cautiously, or do they want people to go out and talk about it?
Often initially they will say, don't talk about it.
Right.
I've heard this a number of times. Once I asked this lady to go on TV. She said, sure. And the Greys showed up and said, no, don't do it. You're not ready. We don't want you to do it.
Right.
Because I think this is part of our own fear reaction, our own warlike ways, our tendency to shoot first and ask questions later. But as contact, this one lady in Maine, Lynette, they always told her, don't talk, don't talk, don't talk. Now as an adult, they're like, talk, 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 talk.
And do it.
And she's like, that's weird, because they always said, no, don't talk. And they gave her all these messages. One was, stop putting out the greed and negativity you're putting out, or you will destroy yourselves like we did. Another was, thoughts are things. You need to tell people that everything they think it is put out there. They said, if people should start disappearing from this planet, it's being done by us for the greater good. They said, they warned her about Hurricane Katrina, which happened. And they said, that's just the beginning. It's going to be much, much worse. And of course it has been.
Yeah, that was a really bad one.
They said, we've been manipulating human genetics for millennia. And not only human genetics, but animals as well, and specifically dogs and cats. We've boosted their genes we've intervened with their genetics to boost their emotional intelligence so that they relate better to humans.
Oh, the little psychics are amazing.
Yeah.
You know,
which seems, I mean, that blew my mind, because people are so close to their dogs and cats. And
it's true, but that's the way to do it. Isn't it brilliant?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And
my
it
guy's
allows
like a
us
little human.
It allows us to relate to other species in a way that's very close and understanding and telepathic.
So these people who are, you say, being taken, is this part of, or maybe all of, what we can attribute, let's say an event such as the missing 411, was that?
Yeah.
That perfect. I like it. Just throw that out there, Preston.
Precisely, because there are a lot of cases. I have some myself where people.
It's thin air. Like
boom, they're gone. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, we've watched it happen. There's a case in Hobbs, New Mexico, where a family watched their father get sucked up inside a UFO. He was never returned. That happened to Frederick Valentic in Australia. He was on the radio with the control tower. This happened to Felix Moncla Jr. over Lake Superior. He's 22 years old, 19. He's a young man. Right. And they vectored him to a UFO, the Air Force did. And his blip merged with the UFO, and boom, the UFO took off, and we've never seen Felix Moncla again.
So what they say for the good of man, like, what is it about these specific individuals, say that 3 times, Michelle, what is it about these people in specific that would be a threat to mankind, that they would be randomly chosen that way?
I don't think it's a threat. It's like, I believe they were probably taken and asked it, do you want to come back? And they said no.
So they're just randomly taken just because then?
I don't know if it's random or not. It's hard to say. I can't say that there's one case I did interview, which was in my book, Onboard UFO Encounters.
Yeah.
Where there was a group of 7 friends. They were, 19, 20, 21, 22. And they would often go to the high desert. One of them owned a cabin, their parents, and they would just hang out there for weekends. And Paul was one of the guys. I know his full name. That is his real first name. He disappears. And they're like, oh my God, where's Paul? Where's Paul? And finally, they're about to send out a search party because it's getting late. And Paul shows up. He's like super excited. He's like, I saw a UFO. It was landed. There was, mostly human looking. They were bald and had large dark eyes, so maybe hybrids.
Right.
And he describes this incredible encounter that was very friendly. They took him on board. He said they were very nice. They showed him the craft. It was very clean, all white. They wore white jumpsuits. Said they're studying this area. Do you want to come with us? And he's like, huh. They said, if you do, you can't come back. And he said, well, no, I don't want to. And they said, okay, that's fine. But if you want to, we're going to be back here next year at this time, on this day.
Wow.
And so this is the story he told his friends. And they're like, oh my God, wow. Are you lying? And he's like, no, I'm totally serious. And I interviewed one of the friends. And long story short, a year goes by and Paul starts giving away his stuff. And
he's going.
And his friends are like, oh my God, are you going? And he's like, I'm not sure. I'm going to drive out there and I'm going to check it out. And he does. He drives out there and doesn't come back. And so his friends drive out there with Paul's parents and find his car with the keys in it. They never found Paul. Paul is gone. They called the police. The police are like, all right, what happened? And they said, well, this UFO landed. And
that'd be hard. Yeah, too. Wow.
Yep. But there was, 5 guys who all said the same thing. Parents were, of course, upset. It was a missing persons case, which was never solved. But I think we solved it.
There's a lot of them. We have a question. We can just go back a little bit.
Yeah.
Wayne, thank you. Wayne asks, do the men in black still threaten people who have had encounters?
Yeah, I think that does turn up. I have only 2 or 3 classic Men in Black cases. So it's hard for me to speak to that because I don't have a whole lot of information. I've certainly followed it. If you get photographs or if you're super vocal, there was a case in Texas, which I think, not that recent though. So it's hard to say whether it's still recent, but I would imagine, if you got hold of physical evidence that they might show up. But this guy in Texas was given a piece of metal by the ETs. They said it's a really interesting case. He had his last encounter. He recalled it under hypnosis. He didn't like his encounters. He was unhappy. Felt it was negative. But under hypnosis, recalls his last encounter. And this female gray walks up to him. She's like, "Hi, my name is Nelda." And she says, "I'm the highest ranking female on the ship. I'm the commander. And thank you for allowing us to work with you. We're done with you. Aren't you happy?" And he said, "No, I'm mad as hell." And she said, "What's mad? What's hell?" And he said, "Oh, okay." And explained what mad and hell was. And she said, "Oh, well, we have had some trouble understanding human emotions. You guys are so emotional." She said, "Well, we'd like to give you this gift." And she showed him this shiny piece of metal. It was basically lead ore, galena. She said, we'll put it in your house, and you'll know it's from us. And it showed up on his dresser. And so he grabbed that piece of metal and was on his way to meet Constance Clear, who is his hypnotherapist, UFO researcher, and got run over by the men in black, run off the road by the Men in Black, who somehow knew, even though he didn't tell anybody, and took his UFO papers, took the piece of metal, and said, "Don't talk. If you talk, there'll be trouble." Yeah, there are lots of Men in Black cases. There are aliens, I think. There are government Men in Black who threaten people as well.
Yes.
I was going to say that. Yeah, the things that they can do, you can only assume that they are, alien. Oh my gosh, it's overwhelming when I think about it. Men in Black scare the crap out of me more than anything I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's weird. They're driving around these black Cadillacs. They're walking around they look weird, they talk weird, they dress weird. They've got weird skin texture.
Some of them are not from here, right? Like they just.
Yeah, I don't think they're human like we would think of it.
I don't either. No. They're just too far advanced, and they can pick up sound, and they show up out of like all the stories that you hear. They show up out of nowhere, or they're constantly watching, and then all of a sudden they're there. It's like, really, you have to have more than human ability to do something like that. You have to be magical in some way.
It's weird. It's a weird aspect to the whole UFO phenomena. This field has layers and rabbit holes and mazes, and it's just, gosh, it's an enigma in so many different ways.
Oh, I'm so grateful you're out there researching and telling us all about it. I'm really grateful. I love having you on because I feel like I'm just learning all the time. I'm so fascinated by everything that comes out of you.
I like it because it's also lighthearted. It's not the typical frightening things that you hear.
Yeah, that's huge. You're right.
We have a really huge listener base, and I like that they get your perspective.
Yeah, well, I do hear from people who are like, oh my God, I'm having a hard time with this. There's a guy in England. I'll call him Gary. He was one of my favorite chapters in my book, On Board UFO Encounters, because he's had so many experiences.
Wow.
And he was just not happy. He's still not happy because the Greys show up. They were no longer able to paralyze him at some point. He got over that. They showed up in his room, and he jumped up and socked it in the face. Boy, that Grey was.
I wonder why they paralyze him. Jesus.
Another time,
he's hostile.
he walked down into his living room. He had to go downstairs to go to the bathroom, and there was a Grey, and it knocked him out. Well, it happened again. He walked down the stairs, saw a Grey, and this time he ran up to it and choked it on the neck. He grabbed it by the neck and was choking it. And he's like, and he says his arm started windmilling. It's going back and forth and saying, "Get off me! Get off me! Get off me! Get off me!" telepathically. And he says he could feel its leathery skin. It was cool and leathery, and something comes up behind him and knocks him out. So he's had a lot of kind of scary experiences. But one time he was taken on board, and the Grey's like, "So, what do you want to do with your life?"
Don't beat us up, please.
And was just talking to him very nicely. And another time he wakes up on board, and there's two little Greys piloting the ship, and they're taking him home. And he's sitting there, or standing there rather, behind them, and just watching the view for like 10 minutes because he didn't want to say anything. And finally he says, he's English, he says, "All right, lads," really loudly. And both the Greys panic. One jumps up and starts running in circles, waving its hands.
No, not this guy again.
And he says to them, "Don't be afraid, I won't hurt you." Don't be afraid, I won't hurt you. Had to tell them 3 times before they stopped.
Yeah, because I would imagine the first time that anyone has an encounter with them, that the fear is tremendous for one thing, and it's that fight or flight response, and you're not sure if you're actually seeing what you're seeing. So yeah, I can understand why people react the way they do.
You only get socked in the head so many times before you get a little worried.
Can you imagine how many times they get hit?
It does happen, and they're somewhat frail. So this is why I think they do paralyze people. But Gary was laughing as he told me this because it was like the tables turned. They always tell him, "Don't be afraid, we won't hurt you." Well, this time he's telling them, "Don't be afraid, I won't hurt you." And they had a fear response.
Wow.
Because they couldn't paralyze him. They can't knock him out.
No, but that's what I mean. Like, I think if you were more straightforward, I mean, it doesn't work for everybody. Let's face it. It doesn't work for everybody, It took me a while to relax at the whole thing, and it's like, okay, but I still don't appreciate the lurking around either. With that being said,
I get that. I've been lying in bed sometimes thinking about like, how would I react, and suddenly it gets real. Like, what if I really saw a Grey? How would I? I did have an experience once where I woke up because I thought a cat was walking across my bed, but I don't have a cat. So
that's a little bit alarming.
right? So I woke up and I'm lying on my side, and I'm like looking, I'm like, is that something standing next to my bed? Is that someone? But it was too thin to be a person. And I thought, there's some in my heart.
There it is.
My heart went bump, 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 bump. My heart started beating really fast.
Yeah.
And whatever it was, I thought, it's kind of vague. I almost usually don't talk about it, but it ran around the corner and was gone, and I turned over and went back to bed.
It is an unsettling feeling because I wasn't even asleep one night, and I opened my eyes. I'm trying to sleep, and I open my eyes and I look wide awake, and right there, so close I could touch it, and I just rolled over and went, nope. I'm good, thanks. After that, I was out cold, so I don't know if I went, if I didn't go. It didn't make a difference.
You have to knock me out.
Yeah, that was it for me. Just roll over and nope, face in my pillow, go to sleep, and hope that it just goes smooth. So
we'll send him my way. Feel free.
Were you listening? See, Preston's got an invitation. So yeah, I'm much more relaxed about it now. But it's just like, my gosh, it's just, sometimes it's just noisy. You're just trying to do some work. I do a lot of research myself. There's a lot of banging around behind you, wanting to see what you're doing, and you're just sitting there like, all right. But they do lead me to what it is they want me to see, what they want me to research and touch on. It's sort of funny how that happens.
I truly think they are benevolent. I mean, there was one guy who had suicidal ideations. He was going to commit suicide. Aww. He went out to the desert and had the gun and cocked it and pointed it to his head, and a gray showed up.
Oh,
and the gray's like, no, you're not doing that.
Wow.
And that's not the only case I have of that.
Yeah.
Intervention.
That's weird that they intervene like that. So if somebody out of the blue just steps outside and tries to contact them and says, I need help with my health, will you help me? Have you heard cases where they never had contact and all of a sudden went out there and everything they could because they're at their wits' end and they've come and healed them?
Yep. A lady was suffering total renal failure. She hadn't gone to the bathroom for like 2-3 days. Finally, she goes to the doctor, and the doctor is horrified. He's like, oh my God, you have complete renal failure. You need to go to the emergency room right now. And she went home to tell her family, like, I'm going to have to go to the hospital. I'm having renal failure. And she called up her work, pray for me. She called her friends, pray for me. Called her family, pray for me. And fell asleep, got knocked out. And wakes up, and there's these beings next to her bed, and they're doing something to her abdomen. She said it lasted a while. They were short, darkish skin, not your typical grays. And she woke up and went to the bathroom, called the doctor, and went to see him. And he's like, oh my God, what happened? She says, I think angels came. So she told her family it was angels.
That's cute.
But then it was like 2 months later, she finds herself on board a craft. Presumably there was rounded walls and indirect lighting and so forth. She's on a table. They're showing her organs in full hologram above her.
Wow.
And they said, here's your kidneys. Don't they look good? You're healthy now. And she said, yeah, they look good. And they showed her liver. There were all these black spots on it. And they said, see these black spots? And she said, yeah. They said, you need to stop drinking Diet Coke. It's damaging your liver.
Wow. So we're not fixing it for you. We want you to change the habit.
Yeah, I mean,
essentially.
Yeah, they told another guy, stop smoking marijuana. They told him, this is not the life we had planned for you.
Wow.
I thought, wait, what? You planned this guy's life? Okay.
It makes total sense, though, how they told her about the Diet Coke, because she can change that on her own. And like you were saying earlier, they can't do everything for you. There's some things you have to do, where they intervene with her kidneys, because that was not something that even medical would have been able to do, that she would have needed a transplant to survive.
Yeah. Another lady with no history of contact was diagnosed with breast cancer. The Greys came and healed her. One lady did have a lifetime of contact. The Greys came and said, you need to stop eating fatty foods. Boy, was she mad. She said, I don't like being called fat by these Greys.
Rather this big. Right.
But yeah, they dispense, dietary advice and living style advice. Jim Sparks, a contactee, was taken on board, and the Greys handed him this gift. They said, "This is our gift to you." And it was a container filled with this black, foul-smelling goo. And he's like, "Ew, what's this?"
Yeah.
Like some gift, right? And they said, "Well, we pulled this out of your lungs. You need to stop smoking."
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
That includes cigars. I'm just saying for a friend who's in the audience.
I don't know. I think anything can be done in moderation. He was a heavy smoker.
Yeah. Right.
And another case just like that. Same thing. The only difference was the shape of the container. They said, "This is our gift to you." Black goo.
Well, it's a good reminder, right? They probably pulled them out right before something serious happened because they still needed them there.
Yeah, I've talked to a number of people who've had this happen to them, and they will be like on their way to the doctor for surgery, and that's when the ETs will show up. It's like this weird last minute thing. They're like, "All right, fine.
Well, surgeries must be pretty primitive compared to their technology too, right?
Yeah, though they do use similar techniques. They do use surgery. Wow. One lady was cured of cancer. She's from Canada, and had very severe cancer. It spread from her pancreas all through her body. She turned orange. They said, "Okay, she's going to die. Call for last rites." And she was sent home because she didn't want to die in the hospital. And heard her voice being called and crawled to the car and drove out of town. And ETs came and pulled her on board. And they said, "We are healing you because we were requested to do so." Turns out she has a friend who's a contactee. And apparently this friend asked them to heal her. And she said it was a very painful operation, and it took a while. And they did surgery, and they did all kinds of lights and instruments. And they said, "Don't take any pills that the doctors give you. Just drink water and you'll be fine." And the doctors couldn't believe it. She recovered. She rallied. She got better.
So what do you think they make of this pandemic that we're in? How do you think they're handling? Because this is a worldwide thing, you know?
Yeah, well, they have to be aware of it.
Yeah.
I didn't talk to one guy, but one guy told me briefly over the internet that he was healed of the,
Right. Yeah, the COVID, it's okay.
Yeah.
They're not as anal about it now as they used to be. So
yeah, they're not.
So they cured him.
Yeah, they cured him. So I imagine, and I do have, in my book on UFO healings, about 10 to 12 cases of people cured of flus and flu-like illnesses. So I think they have to be aware of it. People ask me, did they cause it? I'm like, well, no, there's no evidence of that.
No.
I imagine there's a number of people who have been cured. I don't know. I would really like to know what they think of it and all the conspiracy theories surrounding it. Because I'm certainly curious.
That's a whole other show, and they might pop us off the air if I get going.
We'll be able to talk about that.
Yeah, Dolly says they are not happy, and I tend to agree with her. Especially if you're an abductee or contactee experiencer, I don't think they would want something that is deemed man-made to be interfering with humanity, but let alone their contactees or their abductees, people they're working on, that they're working hard with. Yeah,
I agree. There's a lot of misinformation with the UFO phenomena, with a lot of these subjects.
Yeah.
And this is another reason. Yeah, this is why I don't trust our leaders. I hate to say it, but they've got a long history of not doing the right thing.
I agree.
I don't think they have our best interests in mind.
No, this is just going to be another thing. I think, contact ETs, they're going to instill fear. They're going to raise false flags. Just one more thing to make us fearful.
Yeah. So what people need to do, I think, is reach out to the ETs, educate yourself. If you're having contact, look at it as objectively as possible.
Right.
Are they actually hurting you? Right. Why are you so scared? What is it about your experiences that is actually scaring you? What has actually happened to you?
Right.
Raise your awareness as much as you can. This is what they're trying to do. Meditate. All the spiritual masters, that's the one thing they agree upon. That's in every religion. Meditate. You will raise your awareness. You will become aware of life after death. You will learn how to do astral travel. You can do telepathy. You can realize that we are all one and that love is the answer. This is what
going to give you back your power. What we really are.
Betty Andreasen, she's super famous.
Yes.
As a contactee. Quasga, her gray main contact, said, "Love is the answer for humankind." That's a direct quote from a gray.
Wow. So there you go, people who are fearful.
Yeah, don't tell me they're demonic. Because I have a long list of reasons why they're not. I studied demonology because of this. I'm like, hold on a second. That's a different, separate phenomena.
It is.
Involving, inhuman, evil spirits.
Very different.
And yeah, there are evil people. There's probably some ETs out there who might not have your best interests in mind as well. It's a big universe.
Hey, good people, bad people, good ET, bad ET, balance, right?
I'm pretty sure that they're far more advanced than we are.
Oh, for sure.
Any ET that has the ability to do space travel and reach other planets is probably spiritually evolved as well.
Right.
Just because one generally goes in hand with the other. If you're technologically advanced, the chances are that the only reason you survived technological advancement is because you're spiritually advanced as well. Otherwise, you're like us, technologically advanced and on the brink of destruction.
Right.
Self-destruction.
Right. We are getting towards the end of the segment. It goes by so freaking fast. I have to book you again. Just saying. So, yeah, that has to be a thing. So why don't you? This is a part of the show where you tell everybody what you have coming up and promote.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
It is fun. You're going to be a frequent flyer.
When we see you in the calendar, we're like, Preston's on.
I know.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's so much fun talking with you guys.
Thank you.
But yeah, I do have a website. Just use the search engine on my name. It should take you there. Got my books on Amazon. I've got a YouTube channel. So I'm putting out my research there. I'm on Facebook and Twitter. My latest book is called Wondrous. I just put that out.
Awesome.
And working on another book with Dolly. It's going to be amazing. I think
I know it is.
Favorite book ever.
Because you are both amazing, so I know it's going to be good.
And this is an important subject. You may be skeptical of it. You may not think it affects you, but it does. It has a profound effect. We're going to have open official contact. We're going to have disclosure. It's coming.
Yeah.
I think that it's just a matter of time. Can't say when, but I'm hoping it's soon.
Yeah, right there.
I just wanted to, if I could just quickly read. Zachman said, "Awesome show tonight. Thank you for joining us, Preston. Please come back. Have a good night and a fantastic weekend." Wayne Mallow says, "Yes, please book him again. Thank you, Preston. I appreciate you coming in and sharing so many amazing things. You're so well loved, honestly. We adore you."
You are. So I will be in touch, and we're booking into the new year now, but we will get you back on, and by then, hopefully, your book with Dolly will be out, on the shelves also.
Yep, it should be.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us, and always a pleasure. And I will be in touch.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks, Preston. Take care of yourself out there in that heat.
Thank you.
Hydrate.
That's right. I've got my water right here.
Perfect.
Bloody hot.
Well, I've got to sign us off now. So we have come to the end of another fantastic segment here on the Outer Realm. Huge thank you to everybody in chat. Wow, thank you. Big thank you, of course, to Preston, who's just awesome as always. Big thank you to Joe Montaldo for manning the fort behind the scenes. Always the biggest thank you to Folgers Coffee for sponsoring us. We love them. so much, and we appreciate you so much. Please remember to stop by all of our YouTube channels, International Public Radio, UFO Paranormal, the other one, and please, give us a subscribe. Don't forget us about us. Forget us about us. I'm really tongue-tied tonight, guys. I apologize. But head over to Facebook, find the Outer Realm, and please, again, join the group. Amelia keeps it up pretty well and puts a lot of interesting stuff on there. If you'd like to see a specific guest or topic on the show, or you just have something to say, please email us at theouterrealmcontact@gmail.com. Theouterrealmcontact@gmail.com. Now, next Wednesday night, guys, you've been hearing us mention her name all night. Dolly Saffron. I hope I said that properly. I apologize if not. She's going to be on here for the very first time, discussing for the first time her experiences as a contactee, abductee, experiencer, you name it. Really well versed and full communication with them, and she's going to have a lot to say. Thursday night, we welcome back Dr. Kathleen Ann Ball, who is in Brazil as we speak. Discovering even more of the Knights Templar stuff. It's just going to be amazing. But she's going to be in collaboration with another Templar researcher who worked, with the Sinclair family very closely. You'll know them from Rosslyn Chapel. He was on just a little while ago, Mr. Sean Williamson. So you're not going to want to miss anything next week. It's going to be fantastic. Until then, Amelia and I thank you. Please don't forget about Joe and I on the Gray Zone Uncensored this Saturday, 6 to 8 Eastern, 5 to 7 p.m. Central. Have a good, safe weekend. Thank you for tuning in.